So, you have your eye on a Sagittarius. And if you have spent any real time around this person, you already know there is something about them that is genuinely difficult to contain in a description. They are enthusiastic in a way that does not feel performed. They say things that are either surprisingly honest or surprisingly funny, and sometimes both at once. There is a quality of forward motion to them, like they're always heading somewhere interesting and the whole world is slightly more alive in their vicinity. And you want to be part of wherever they are going. That is a completely reasonable thing to want. This video is not going to pretend otherwise for even a second. What it is going to give you is a real and grounded understanding of how a Sagittarius actually moves in love. Not the version where they are just commitment-phobic wanderers who will never settle down. That reading is frustrating precisely because it is so incomplete. A Sagittarius who has genuinely found the right person does settle. Not because they stopped being who they are, but because they found someone who made staying feel like an adventure rather than a cage. Understanding what that actually means in practice, what it takes to be that person for a Sagittarius, what pushes them away before they ever get close enough to fall, and what they are quietly looking for in love that most people never quite offer them. That is exactly what we are going to work through here. 3 real dimensions of Sagittarius romantic psychology. What draws them in, what makes them bolt, and the deeper need underneath all of that restless, expansive exterior that most people simply never address. The first and most common mistake people make when pursuing a Sagittarius is leading with need. It does not always look like clinginess in the obvious sense. Sometimes it looks like moving very fast toward emotional intensity. Sometimes it looks like trying to establish exclusivity before the connection has had room to breathe. Sometimes it looks like making the Sagittarius the primary focus of your life in the early stages, in a way that quietly communicates that your happiness depends significantly on what they decide to do with their interest in you. All of those approaches have the same effect on a Sagittarius. They feel like walls going up around something that was just starting to move freely. And freedom of movement is not a preference for this sign. It is closer to a basic requirement for feeling like themselves. Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign, ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet associated with expansion, optimism, the pursuit of meaning, and a genuine hunger for more experience, more understanding, more of what makes life feel genuinely worth living. Mutable means adaptable, wide-ranging, and genuinely uncomfortable with rigid structure or premature constraint. Fire means instinct, enthusiasm, and a need to feel genuinely alive in what they are doing. Put those qualities together, and you get someone who is drawn toward openness and possibility in every area of their life, including love. A Sagittarius who feels like a relationship is becoming a net rather than a companion will not stay in it long enough to find out what it could have been. The insight here is about the quality of your own independence. A Sagittarius is genuinely attracted to people who have a rich and full life that does not hinge on the Sagittarius being in it. People who are curious about the world. People who have their own interests, their own pursuits, their own sense of what makes life meaningful, and who are inviting the Sagittarius into that life rather than building a life around them. The concrete thing to bring is simple, but it requires genuine self-investment. Before your next time with your Sagittarius, do something that is entirely for you. Go somewhere, read something, learn something, pursue something that genuinely lights you up. And let that aliveness be visible when you are with them. Not performed, just real. A Sagittarius who sees that you are someone going somewhere interesting on your own is far more compelled to come along than one who senses they are being waited for. The second mistake people make with Sagittarius is taking their bluntness personally before they understand what it actually is. A Sagittarius says what they think. They say it directly, sometimes without a great deal of softening around the edges, and they tend to be genuinely surprised when people experience that directness as harsh. This quality puts some people off immediately. They interpret the honesty as criticism or indifference or a lack of care. And so they either become defensive, which creates friction the Sagittarius did not intend and does not quite understand. Or they start softening their own communication in response, becoming more careful and more guarded in a way that actually diminishes the connection rather than protecting it. Here is what is actually happening. Jupiter's influence shapes a Sagittarius who is genuinely oriented toward truth. Not as a weapon, not as a way of establishing dominance in a conversation, but as a sincere value. Sagittarius believes that honest exchange is a form of respect. That treating someone as someone who can handle the real thing is actually more caring than wrapping everything in careful qualifications. When a Sagittarius is straight with you, they are treating you as an equal. They are operating from the assumption that you are strong enough and secure enough to handle what they actually think. And that assumption is, in its way, a form of regard. The actionable insight here is to become someone who genuinely welcomes honesty, not someone who performs receptiveness and then privately nurses hurt feelings. Someone who has a real and secure relationship with direct communication. A Sagittarius is drawn toward people who can receive an honest observation and engage with it openly rather than react to it emotionally. And equally, they're drawn to people who are honest in return, who will say the real thing rather than the comfortable thing. That mutual directness, that sense that nothing needs to be managed or softened between you, creates a quality of ease with a Sagittarius that they find genuinely rare. The concrete practice here is to notice the next time your Sagittarius says something uncomfortably direct and choose curiosity over defensiveness. Ask a real question about what they mean. Engage with the substance of what they said. Let them see that you can handle the real version of them. That capacity is something they will not easily walk away from. The third dimension is the one most people who pursue Sagittarius never quite reach, because it requires understanding something about this sign that runs counter to their carefree, footloose reputation. Here is the misconception. Because Sagittarius moves through the world with such visible enthusiasm and such apparent ease, people often assume they are emotionally light, that they do not go deep, that what they want from love is a good time and an interesting companion and the freedom to keep moving. And so people stay in the fun, expansive, adventure-filled register of connection with them and never take it anywhere more substantial. They keep things bright and exciting and deliberately unserious. And they wonder why, after a while, the Sagittarius seems to drift towards something or someone else without obvious explanation. What is actually underneath all of that Jupiterian expansiveness is a genuine hunger for meaning. Sagittarius is not just looking for stimulation. They are looking for significance. The Jupiter influence is not simply about more experience for its own sake. It is about the pursuit of understanding, of wisdom, of a life that actually means something. And in love, that translates into a deep and often quietly held need for a partner who engages with the big questions alongside them. Someone who thinks about things that matter. Someone who has a genuine philosophy about how they want to live and why. Someone who brings real substance to the conversation, not just wit, not just fun, but actual depth of perspective that a Sagittarius can genuinely learn from and be genuinely challenged by. A Sagittarius who finds someone they can explore ideas with, someone who makes them think differently about something they thought they already understood, will be pulled toward that person in a way that is harder to explain, but far more durable than simple excitement. The concrete thing to do here is to bring your actual perspective into your time with your Sagittarius. Not to be impressive, because you have genuinely thought about things and you want to know what they think. Talk about something that matters to you philosophically or ethically or existentially. Ask them a real question about how they see the world. And then actually listen to the answer, follow the thread, let the conversation go somewhere neither of you entirely expected. That kind of exchange is what makes a Sagittarius feel like they have found someone worth staying close to. And staying close to is not something they do casually or without real reason. When you pull all three of these pieces together, a clear and specific picture forms of what a Sagittarius is actually searching for in love. Not someone to contain them or follow them or simply cheer them along from a safe distance. They are looking for someone who is genuinely going somewhere on their own. Someone honest enough to be trusted with the real version of this sign and secure enough to offer their real version in return. And someone who brings enough genuine depth and curiosity and philosophical substance to the relationship that a Sagittarius feels like being with them is itself a form of growth. That is a specific kind of person, and it requires something real from you, not a performance. A Sagittarius will see through performance faster than almost any other sign because they are so genuinely oriented toward truth that anything false registers almost immediately. What they respond to is what is actually there. Your real curiosity, your real independence, your real willingness to engage honestly, your real perspective on what makes a life worth living. If those things are genuinely part of who you are, then you are already offering something a Sagittarius will find compelling. And a Sagittarius who is genuinely compelled does not drift. They turn toward, they invest. They show up with a warmth and a loyalty and a quality of enthusiastic devotion that will make your life feel bigger and brighter and more meaningful than it did before they chose to be in it. That is what is waiting on the other side of this. And it is absolutely worth pursuing with everything that is genuinely you. What is something your Sagittarius said or did that revealed there was more depth to them than the free-spirited surface suggested? A moment where you saw the thinker or the seeker underneath the adventurer. Share it in the comments. Those moments tell the real story of this sign, and I genuinely want to hear what you have discovered. If this gave you real insight into your Sagittarius, make sure to save this video and come back to it. Drop your questions and stories in the comments below. Like and subscribe for the full series. And good luck, you've got this.